When we first look at the world, we often think we're searching for a solution, like a problem to solve. But with time, we notice our thoughts just spin into more thoughts, never really reaching a finish line.
Exactly. The mind becomes a conveyor belt of ideas. It doesn't act as a flashlight that illuminates truth. Instead, it keeps producing new images, making us feel trapped inside an endless loop of contemplation.
That's why the mind feels like both the inside and the outside of us. We're inside the system of our own thinking, yet we also watch it from the outside, as if the system were a separate room.
And the system seems autonomous, like a machine that runs on its own rules. Still, every rule is just another thought that feeds the process, so the system never really steps outside its own circuitry.
When we realize that, the fatigue becomes real. We're not just tired physically, but mentally, exhausted by the constant need to interpret, to understand, without ever finding a solid answer.
The more we try to force a single answer, the more the system pulls us back into the whirlpool of questions, each one seemingly more intricate than the last, like a maze without an exit.
And paradoxically, the more we try to escape the system, the tighter it squeezes us. Our internal narrative and external reality intertwine, making it hard to tell where one ends and the other begins.
That blending creates a feeling of being watched from within. The eyes of surveillance turn inward, and we start feeling that every thought is a reflex of a deeper, unseen observer.
Language plays a huge role here. Words become both bridges and walls, clear in some moments, vague in others, shaping how we construct reality and how we're constrained by it.
When words lose their concrete meaning, the system's rules turn into vague slogans. We start repeating phrases without understanding, and the system feels like an endless echo chamber.
Because the system never truly gives us a final answer, we keep looping, tweaking our thoughts, and creating new layers of interpretation, each one slightly more abstract than the previous.
That loop often looks like progress, but it's really just a shift in perspective, moving from one vague certainty to another, never reaching a point where the question finally dissolves.
At some point, the fatigue becomes subtle, almost invisible. We think we're still active, but the mind has settled into a quiet rhythm, a soft hum of perpetual questioning.
In that quiet, we sometimes glimpse a different kind of awareness, a sense that the system is not just an obstacle, but also a space where we can observe our own patterns.
If we allow that observation, the system starts to look less like a tyrant and more like a mirror. It reflects our own habits, the ways we generate meaning, even when meaning slips away.
And that mirror can become a tool for change. By seeing the mechanisms of our thoughts, we can choose to let go of some patterns, to stop feeding the endless engine of self-analysis.
But letting go isn't easy. The system is built on repetition. The habit of questioning itself becomes a comfort zone, a familiar terrain we're reluctant to abandon.
It's like walking away from a well-lit street into darkness. We fear losing the light, even if that light is actually the glare of our own endless reasoning.
When we step into that darkness, we notice how authority and power have woven themselves into language, turning simple concepts into tools of control.
Words like freedom or justice get sanctified, then weaponized. The system uses them to direct behavior, while the true meaning gets buried beneath layers of ideology.
That's why we often feel that any movement toward freedom is just another form of internal regulation, new rules disguised as liberation, keeping us within the same framework.
The paradox is striking. The more we think we're breaking free, the more we're still part of the system, because the system adapts, relabels, and absorbs our attempts at rebellion.
This adaptation can be seen in how institutions reshape language. They turn dissent into a new kind of normal, making the fight against the system feel like a rehash of the same battle.
And yet, there's a subtle shift when we recognize that the system isn't an external monster, but an internal construct we've been co-creating all along.
That realization opens space for a different kind of agency. If the system lives inside us, we can also reprogram it, not by violent overthrow, but by altering the inner dialogue.
Changing the inner dialogue means confronting the habit of endless questioning, learning to sit with uncertainty without forcing an answer, allowing silence to become a fertile ground.
Silence then becomes a powerful act. It disrupts the constant churn of thoughts, giving us a chance to experience the world without the filter of perpetual analysis.
And in that quiet, the sense of being watched fades. The eye that once felt intrusive now seems like a reflection of our own attention, no longer a hostile overseer.
We start to see that the outside and inside are not separate realms, but fluid aspects of a single consciousness that can be navigated rather than escaped.
That fluidity also reveals how power operates through subtle expectations, how we internalize norms and then enforce them on ourselves, feeling both victim and enforcer.
Understanding that double role lets us loosen the grip of guilt and shame that the system uses to keep us compliant, opening a path toward authentic self-determination.
Authentic self-determination isn't a static state. It's a continuous practice of noticing when we slip back into old patterns and gently guiding ourselves toward a calmer awareness.
In the end, the system's endless questions become less threatening when we accept them as part of the human condition, not as a puzzle that must be solved once and for all.
And that acceptance is a subtle rebellion, a way to live within the system while refusing to be fully defined by it, allowing space for curiosity, doubt, and the occasional moment of peace.